Hey learners! Welcome back to the English Leap podcast, your cozy place to learn easy English through real life conversations. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jake, and today's topic is one that is very close to everyday life, very human, very real.
Yes, because today we're talking about friends and relationships.
One of those topics that sounds light and easy at first.
Yes, friends. Nice word, warm word, makes you think of coffee and long conversations and people who make you laugh.
Exactly. And then you think a little deeper, and suddenly it gets very interesting, very layered.
Because friendships are not always simple. They change, they grow, sometimes they fade, sometimes they surprise you completely.
Yes, and relationships in general, not just romantic ones, but all the important connections in your life, they shape so much of who you are, how you feel, how you see yourself.
And we almost never talk about them honestly enough.
No, we say I am fine and everything is good, and we move on.
Very efficient, very surface level.
Very surface level. So today we want to go a little deeper.
And because this is the English Leap podcast, we're doing all of this through natural, real English conversation. This is a B1 to B2 level episode, so the language will be natural and conversational, perfect for everyday English practice.
Yes, the kind of English you actually need when you talk to people, when you describe how you feel, when you talk about the people in your life.
And later in the episode, we will look at some really useful words and expressions for talking about friends and relationships in English. So make sure you stay with us for that part too.
And before we begin, if this podcast helps you learn English in a way that feels warm and real, please like the episode, subscribe to the channel, and join the English Leap family.
We would also love to hear from you today. Who is someone in your life that you're really grateful for? It can be a friend, a family member, anyone who matters to you. Tell us in the comments. We always love reading your words.
All right, let's begin.
So let's start with something that most people have felt but maybe never put into words.
Yes, the difference between having many people around you and actually feeling connected.
Oh, yes, because those two things are completely different.
Completely different. You can be surrounded by people and still feel very alone, and you can have just one or two close people in your life and feel completely full.
Yes, and I think in today's world, with social media and hundreds of online connections, people sometimes confuse quantity with quality. They think more connections means more belonging, but it does not always work that way.
No, because belonging is not about how many people know your name. It is about how many people actually know you.
Yes, the real you, not the version you present to the world, not the highlights, the real you, with the fears and the doubts and the strange habits.
The you that is not always put together.
Exactly. And very few people get to see that version. And the ones who do, those are usually the ones that matter most.
So let's talk about what makes a friendship real, because I think people know the feeling but sometimes struggle to describe it.
Yes, what actually makes someone a real friend?
I think the first thing is safety, feeling safe with someone. Safe to say what you actually think, safe to be honest, safe to make mistakes without feeling judged.
Yes, because in a lot of relationships, we perform a little. We say what we think people want to hear. We present a version of ourselves that feels more acceptable.
And that is exhausting.
Very exhausting. It takes real energy to constantly manage how someone sees you.
But with a real friend, that performance stops. You can just be, without editing yourself, without worrying too much about every word.
And that feeling of being able to just be is actually quite rare, which is why when you find it, you hold on to it.
Yes, the second thing I think makes a friendship real is that it is mutual. Both people give, both people care, both people show up.
Because a friendship where only one person is always reaching out, always making the effort, always being the one who cares more, that is a draining friendship.
It really is, and it leaves the person giving more feeling invisible after a while.
Yes, like their effort does not matter, like they are not worth the same energy in return.
And not is a painful feeling, especially when it is someone you genuinely care about.
So mutual effort matters. Not perfectly equal every single day, life is not always perfectly equal, but over time, both people should feel like they matter equally.
And the third thing is consistency. Not constant contact, not talking every single day, but a reliability. a feeling that this person is there.
Yes, that if something happened, really happened, you could call them.
And they would pick up.
Exactly. That is the test, isn't it? Not who likes your photos, but who picks up.
Let's also talk about something a little harder. Friendships that fade. Because this happens to almost everyone, and it can feel very confusing.
Yes, because sometimes a friendship does not end dramatically. There's no argument, no big moment. It just slowly becomes quieter, and then one day you realize you have not spoken in months.
And you're not even sure whose turn it was to reach out.
Exactly. And there's something quite sad about that. A friendship fading not because of anything that went wrong, but just because life moved in different directions.
Yes, new cities, new jobs, new families, new schedules that never quite overlap. And I think people feel guilty about this sometimes, like they failed the friendship somehow.
But I think it's worth being a little kinder to yourself about it, because people change, and sometimes friendships belong to a specific season of your life.
Yes, a friendship from university might have been exactly right for that time, for who you were then, for what you needed then.
And it's okay if it does not look the same 10 years later.
That does not mean it wasn't real. It does not mean it didn't matter. It just means people grow, and sometimes they grow in different directions.
And there's something beautiful in accepting that, even when it's a little sad.
But let's also talk about the friendships worth fighting for, because not every quiet friendship should just be allowed to fade.
No, some of them deserve a little effort. A message, a phone call, a hey, I've been thinking about you. How are you really?
Yes, because sometimes people pull back not because they don't care, but because they're going through something difficult and they don't want to be a burden.
Oh, that one is so common.
So common. People disappear when they're struggling because they think no one wants to hear it. They think they will be too much.
And the people who care about them are on the other side, wondering why they went quiet.
And nobody reaches out because both sides are a little scared. Both sides don't want to impose, and so the distance grows without anyone actually wanting it to.
So sometimes the bravest thing in a friendship is just to reach out, even when you're not sure it will be received well.
Even when some time has passed, even when it feels a little awkward.
Because a simple I miss you or I was thinking about you can open a door that both people were too nervous to knock on.
And now let's talk about something that comes up a lot in friendships and relationships: communication. Specifically, honest communication.
Because most relationship problems, if you look closely, are communication problems underneath.
Yes, things that were never said, feelings that were never named, needs that were never expressed. And then one day, a small thing happens, and suddenly it's a big thing. But it was never really about the small thing. It was about everything that was never said before.
Yes, the small thing was just the door that finally opened.
Exactly. And honest communication is hard. It requires vulnerability. It requires saying something that feels risky, something that could be misunderstood, something that exposes how you actually feel.
And most people avoid that because it feels safer to keep things comfortable, to not rock the boat.
But keeping things comfortable by staying silent often creates a different kind of discomfort.
Yes, where both people are polite, but not really close anymore. Because closeness requires honesty. It does not happen without it. So if there is something you have been meaning to say to someone, something kind, something honest, something overdue, maybe this is a gentle reminder to say it. Not perfectly, not with the exact right words, just honestly. And now, let's slow down and look at some of the key words and expressions from today's episode.
Yes, and these are especially useful because they are the kind of words you need when you talk about people and relationships in English, in real life, in real conversations. Let's begin. First, quantity and quality. Quantity means the amount of something, how many. Quality means how good something is, the standard or value of it. For example, in friendships, quality matters much more than quantity. A few deep connections are more valuable than many shallow ones. Or, the quantity of her work was impressive, but the quality was what truly stood out. Repeat, quantity and quality.
Quantity and quality. Next, belonging. Belonging is the feeling of being accepted and included, feeling like you are in the right place with the right people. like you fit. For example, belonging is not about how many people know your name, it is about feeling truly known. Or, she finally found a sense of belonging when she joined that community. Repeat, belonging.
Belonging. Next, mutual. If something is mutual, it is shared equally between two people or groups. Both sides feel or do the same thing. For example, a real friendship is mutual. Both people care, both people make effort. Or, the respect between them was clearly mutual from the very beginning. Repeat, mutual.
Mutual. Next, reliability. Reliability means being dependable, consistent, someone you can count on to be there when it matters. For example, what makes a friendship strong is not daily contact, but reliability, knowing the person will be there. Or, her reliability at work made everyone feel more confident and calm. Repeat, reliability.
Reliability. Next, burden. A burden is something heavy that you carry. In relationships, feeling like a burden means worrying that your problems or needs are too much for other people. For example, many people pull back when they are struggling because they do not want to be a burden. Or, he carried the burden of that secret alone for far too long. Repeat, burden.
Burden. Next, impose. To impose on someone means to ask for too much from them, to put your needs or presence on someone in a way that feels like too much. For example, people sometimes do not reach out because they don't want to impose on a busy friend. Or, she always worried about imposing, so she rarely asked for help. Repeat, impose.
Impose. Next, vulnerability. Vulnerability means being open and honest about your real feelings, even when it feels risky. It is allowing yourself to be seen as you really are. For example, honest communication requires vulnerability. It means saying things that feel a little scary. Or, it takes real courage to show vulnerability in a new relationship. Repeat, vulnerability.
Vulnerability. And finally, rock the boat. To rock the boat means to disturb a comfortable situation by saying or doing something that causes tension or conflict, to upset the balance. For example, many people stay silent because they don't want to rock the boat, but silence can also create distance. Or, she decided to rock the boat and say exactly what she thought, and it was the best decision she made. Repeat. Rock the boat.
Rock the boat. And those were the key words and expressions from today's episode.
And if there is one thing we hope you carry from today, it is this. The people who matter most in your life deserve your honesty. Not your perfect version, not your edited highlights, your real, honest, sometimes messy self. Because that's the only version real connection is built on. So reach out to someone today. Someone you have been meaning to check on. Someone you miss. Someone who deserves to know they are thought of. A short message, a simple call, even just a, "Hey, I was thinking about you today." It costs very little, and it can mean everything. Take care of yourselves. This is Anna.
And this is Jake.
And you have been listening to the English Leap podcast. Bye.
Bye.